When I left San Francisco in 96, there was like really hardcore police crackdowns, and sort of like there was like a whole like graph department or area that was like looking for people. I mean, I know that Josh really got it bad, and they were like after people in a really bad way. And so I sort of was out before that time happened. And I mean, it would have really sucked, I think, to sort of like try and do graph in that environment. Cause yeah, I mean, cops suck, but, you know, it's not like fun to be out there and like being chased by cops. It's like, you know, a nightmare. But, it was definitely before that time period, it was like super easy to just go out and like go in the tunnels and like climb buildings. And there was just sort of like not much happening, to sort of stop that. I mean, it was definitely like kids wanted to, you know, express themselves, and I think we certainly did. Yeah, in many different ways. There was a lot of like different sort of like artist spaces also that were happening. It was just sort of a very rich time period. Yeah, and it wasn't sort of like so destitute now as it is in terms of like zombie. It wasn't sort of like that dark, you know, sort of like atmosphere sort of has. I think it's sort of ending, but yeah, it definitely was a more creative place. Yeah, I mean, it's super different now. I mean, I don't even know. It's like people don't even have to, it doesn't even seem like they have to go bombing. I mean, it's like you can just paint on a wall and take a photo of it and put it on your phone, and that's like enough. I mean, it's crazy. It's also super crazy to me how commercialized graph is now. It's like, wow, there's like so much branding. I mean, it's across the board anyhow, but it's just like, it's really just sort of like anything else now. I mean, it's like Starbucks, you know, it's just like crazy how sort of like watered down things are. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not like, oh, back in the day, but I mean, it's not so much like that, but it's like, wow, you really had to work at it to sort of like keep that like image alive. I mean, it was definitely like you had to fucking take your camera the next morning and like go out on the street and like go back to where you painted and take a picture of it because it was going to get buffed. And the only way you could prove that you were bombing really is if you were like taking photos of your stuff. You know what I mean? It's like no one's going to see it if it gets buffed. And so to sort of like keep that sort of image or what have you, or prove that you were out there doing something, if you're sort of hitting specific places, you know they're going to get buffed. And so it's like you're going to have to like take a photo of it, you know, to show anyone or to prove that you were there or up or what have you. And so I feel like there was a little bit more work involved. Also, it's like I said, I mean, people were actually like, you know, going and bombing, you know what I mean? Going and like going to a neighborhood. I mean, it was very, sort of like, what is it? Sort of, it was like neighborhood by neighborhood. I mean, you could go out on the street and you would sort of like hit a specific area and you could see who else was out. And it was like, I mean, it was a really small group of people that were riding on the street. And so you could sort of like know who was out. It was just a really small sort of like scene. But it made it kind of like fun. And it was kind of like, I think that maybe all graph writing is this way, but it's sort of like a language that you share with other writers. You know what I mean? It sort of is like, when you're writing graph, it's not really for the public. I mean, you'd think that it would be because it's such a public, you're in such a public space, you know what I mean? Like people are out, they're on buses, they're in cars, and they're seeing graph. But I feel like when you're writing graph as a writer, you're really just writing for other writers, you know what I mean? So It's like super insular to some extent. And I don't think people really sort of, I don't know if they really realize that or feel that way now with so much sort of like social media or what have you, or in terms of like, I think I'm talking specifically about like being in the city and being in places and being in neighborhoods. And it's sort of like, it involves more so like the physical area of a city also. It's not so much, you know, it's sort of like where people are and what people are doing. It seems so much to be so much about that, at least for me. Yeah, but I don't even know how I mean, and also like pre-internet. It was sort of like you would hear about another writer coming to town like way before they arrived, just from like hearsay. Or like it was sort of like, oh, so and so are coming to town from like another city, or like someone from like AWR is coming from LA, or like someone from Boston is coming, or like, you know what I mean? It was sort of like everyone would get all like crazy for a minute. So it was definitely more special, I feel. And you wouldn't really see so much, or, you know, there was people that were from, it's kind of like, I don't even know if it's like that nowadays, but it was sort of like writers wrote in specific ways from where they came from, whether they're from Philadelphia or Boston or what have you. But it was like, it was just definitely sort of more exciting or fun to have people from out of town or go to other places. I mean, Josh and I tried to go to like Canada, but we got like turned away at the border with like 500 cans of paint in our car. It was sort of like, you know, and there's other writers that we'd stop and see in Seattle or what have you. But it was sort of like exciting, or a little like sketchy almost, to go to different places. Whereas I feel like people have access to, like, obviously we have access to like the entire world now. Yeah. And, you know, it was like, I guess back then it was a little bit more thrilling to sort of like, it was sort of like a frontier still.
It's crazy too, like that time period, the people involved, like you're talking about KR, you're talking about Twist, mm-hmm. and AMAZE, how much influence that ended up having throughout the world to this day.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of surprising to me too. I mean, it definitely, I think that maybe it was because it was so insular. I mean, it really was like a really small group of people, but also because we sort of were coming from so many different places. You know, like I said, like Craig was so much about New York, and like Barry and I were so much about like the Bay Area and California, and like other people from like specific places in the Bay Area, and like Daly City and the Peninsula and the East Bay. And it was just really sort of this melting pot of like different things going on. But it definitely didn't seem super different. I mean, I think the history of San Francisco and the creative history, like the beat movement happened there, and a lot of underground movements happened there, and like the Castro and like the gay and lesbian scene, and like it was just super, you know, it was like very different in terms of like, it was not like traditional graph, you know, like I was dating a girl, my friend, like my friend Alicia and I were dating for a while. It was like all different kinds of people were like doing graph on the street, you know what I mean? Like all different walks of life. And it was really, I feel, because of San Francisco and like the sort of like the city and how it like brought creative people there already, and the history of that. But yeah, I have no idea why or how it became like so popular. But it's definitely, it was a really like sort of amazing time period. I mean, there was a whole bunch of aspects of graph that I really hated too. It was like, you know, a lot of the beef and like all this sort of like drama, which is like afterwards, it's like, what the fuck was that? It was like so stupid, you know, but I mean, it's like so ridiculous. And like so much like shoplifting, like I hate, like at the end, I just wanted to like stop doing graph because I hated, like I couldn't like shoplift anymore really. It was like so stressful, but it's like you had to steal everything, and it was just like so annoying. It was like at some point it's like I couldn't even like buy shampoo, you know what I mean? It was just like everything, it was just like so stressful. So there's like elements of graph that, you know, infiltrated other elements of your life, and it was just like too much, you know, at the end of the day. It was like I didn't want to like steal things anymore. And I mean, there's just like a lot of different parts of it that was sort of annoying for sure. But I mean, it definitely had its like high points. I mean, also you have to think that like we all went to art school almost, you know what I mean? Like Barry did, Craig did, I did, you know, we were all at the Art Institute at some point or another. And so it was, and Alicia did, my friend, it was sort of like many people of that time period were actually at art school, which is sort of like adds a whole other element to like what traditional graph is, to some extent. It was sort of like we got super creative with it, so to speak. But yeah, it was fun. I think we were just really down to do all sorts of different things too. And I mean, it wasn't just like doing pieces. Like I never there was a place called Psycho City or whatever. It was sort of like strict traditional graph of like piecing and like hitting trains and sort of like having this element of what traditional graph was like super uninteresting to me. You know what I mean? Like I wanted sort of like a relationship with the city itself. And I mean, also, so tagging, but I mean, San Francisco has like a really big sort of like bus tagging sort of culture. And that was really more so about like kids taking buses and sort of like that element. And it was like on the street also. And there was like old riders that people knew about, like UB40 or what have you. But it was sort of like, very much so, the streets were super clean. I felt like, aside from like weird like scribbling and what have you, it was sort of like an empty canvas at the point when we started really hitting it, and then like more and more writers started coming. But aside from like just sort of like traditional tagging, there was like no fills, no throw ups, and like pieces were really only done in like Psycho City. It was sort of like really kind of not lame in terms of, I mean, Psycho City was like annoying as hell. You know what I mean? Like it was somewhere I would never be caught dead in, it was just like way, way uncool. But yeah, what else?